Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.
Brother, as we all know, कि Quran is for guidance, the do's and the don'ts, the instruction manual is. Still, most of the sects, most of the leaders, they say, if I don't read it with understanding, the meaning may differ. You may not be able to read between the lines. This is what is Zahir. The batil meaning is not for you, वगैरह वगैरह. So, I want your reply in brief. What can be the reason why they are stopping people to read with meaning?
It was asked a very good question, and he says he wants my reply in brief that many of the religious leaders, especially the Muslims of different groups, of different organizations, of different sects, they say you should not read the Quran with understanding. There's a hidden meaning, and there is meaning which is just on the face of it. You do not know the hidden meaning, therefore you should not read. And the reply of this, in brief, I've given a talk, Al-Quran, should it be read with understanding, with a question and answer session, which is approximately 3 hours. The Covert went for 3.5 hours, but to make it 3 hours, we cut some of the questions, to make it compact, to make it within 3 hours. That will be in brief. I'll try to give a highlight of the brief, or the brief of the brief, that Allah says in the Quran, in no less than 4 different places. In the same surah, in Surah Qamar, chapter number 54, verse number 17, verse number 22, verse number 32, and verse number 40, Allah says that وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. That we have made the Quran easy for you to understand, then which of you shall not receive admonition? We have made the Quran easy for you to memorize. So when Allah says we have made the Quran easy for you to understand, who will not receive admonition? So do we have to believe these so-called alims, or so-called leaders, or so-called great people? Allah the creator, the author of the Quran says, my Quran is easy for you to understand. Why don't you receive guidance from it? So should we follow Allah, or should we follow these leaders? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, Allah says in Surah Al-Imran, chapter number 3, verse number 7, that some of the verses of the Quran have got established meanings. Some have got meanings which are difficult to understand. But if you analyze that most of the verses of the Quran, they're simple. For example, Qul huwallahu ahad. Say He is Allah one and only. Now what commentary do you require? Do you require commentary on this? Say that Allah is one and only. What do you require? You may give additional information, but do you mean to say that what the Quran means is Allah is not one, Allah is two? Does it mean that? Does it mean Allah is 1.5? See, certain verses, Qul huwallahu ahad. Say there is Allah one and only. What do you require? Yes, you may know your own background when it was revealed. That's all different. But will the meaning change? No. Knowing the background is good. You can know the background, but by knowing the background, the meaning will not change. You may come to know when it was revealed, why it was revealed. That's all additional information. But the basic message will not change. So most of the verses of the Quran, they have got established meanings. There are certain verses of the Quran which have got unestablished meaning. Now these verses of the Quran which have got unestablished meaning, their meaning in detail is given somewhere else in the Quran or in the Sahih Hadith. So certain verses of the Quran which may require more explanation, you have to go for cross-reference. The best reference of the Quran is the Quran itself. If you go to other verses, you get the detailed answer. Or you may have to go to Sahih Hadith. Or you may have to go to expert, as Allah says in the Quran. In Surah Nahl, chapter number 16, verse number 43. And Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 7, Allah says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. If you don't know, or if you have doubt, ask a person who is knowledgeable. So when you have certain things which are doubtful in the Quran, then you may go and ask an expert. But things like Qul huwallahu ahad, Allah one only, you don't have to go to an expert. While reading the translation of the Quran, if you come across certain things which you may feel have got multiple meanings, then you can go to a specialist. And this is a small percentage. But there are people who give various arguments that why you should not read the Quran with understanding. And they give argument. I'll just give a couple of the things I quoted in my talk. The rest you can see in my video cassette. There are people who give the example, if you have a kacha license, a temporary license, and if you have an accident, the police will give you less punishment. If you have a permanent license, if you have a pakka license, and then if you have an accident, the police will give you double punishment. Therefore, if you read the Quran, and then if you sin, then gone. Allah will give you big punishment. Don't read the Quran, then if you do sin, then less punishment. Very good logic. And I have an argument of agreeing. The way I debate is like, there's a thing in martial arts, which I always tell, that if opponent is very big, if he tries to punch you, etc., use his power to throw him over. Whether it be judo, whether it be aikido, we use his power to throw him over. So you go in his direction, in the same direction. If he comes to punch, I sidestep and I throw him over. If he catches my collar and pushes me, I take a step back and I get him down on the ground. So this is using his force, agreeing For example, someone says 2 plus 2 is equal to 5. Okay, fine. Take 2 rupees, take 2 rupees, give me 5 rupees. Take 2,000, take 2,000, give me 5,000. Take 2 lakh, take 2 lakh, give me 5 lakh. So what I say, if I agree with you for sake of argument, that if you have a kacha license, temporary license, and if you bang up a car, then maybe the police will fine you 1,000 rupees. If you have a pakka license, a permanent license, and if you bang up the car, the police will fine you 2,000 rupees. But I tell the chances in a span of 5 years that if you have a pakka license, you'll bang up the car is once. So at the end of 5 years, you pay 2,000 rupees. But if you have a kacha license, you don't know how to drive the car. You don't know how to drive the car. And with the temporary license, you keep on driving. The chance you bang up the car is 50 times. So end of 5 years, you end up paying 50,000 fine. So is it preferable 50,000 fine or 2,000 fine? So you have to sometimes agree with them and prove them logically they're wrong. And various examples. And I've given one more incident. That first time when automobiles came in India, no one knew how to drive. So the company, along with the car, they even supplied the driver. No one knew how to drive. So along with the car, they supplied the driver. So one Nawab of Hyderabad, he buys a car. So along with the car, the company gave him a driver. So one day in the morning, he tells the driver that today morning I want to take my wife Begum Sahiba for shopping. Keep the car ready. So he says, Nawab Sahib, the car is out of order. He says, I want the car in order immediately. So driver tells him to put the car back in working condition. I require 10 kgs of honey, 30 liters of milk, 20 kg of ghee, pure ghee, asal ghee, and 40 kgs of rice. That also basmati rice. So Nawab Sahib gives him 10 kg of honey, 20 kg of ghee, 30 liters of milk, and 40 kgs of pure basmati rice. He takes it and gives it to his wife, and within a few minutes the car is in working condition. I am asking a question. Today if you're a driver, if he tells you he requires 10 kg of honey, 20 kg of ghee, 30 liters of milk, and 40 kg of basmati rice, will you give it to him? What will you do? What will you do? You'll kick him out of the job. You may not be a mechanic. You may not be a mechanic. You may not know how to repair a car. But you have the basic knowledge the car runs on petrol, on diesel, on gas. It doesn't run on ghee, basmati rice, on honey. So even though you're not a mechanic, you have the basic knowledge of a car. You may not know how to drive. So similarly, you may not be a scholar of the Quran, but if every Muslim has the basic knowledge of the Quran, no alim will take you for a ride. All these so-called leaders, they will not take you for a ride. So at least have the basic knowledge of the Quran. So if you have the basic knowledge, read the Quran with understanding. Allah says that the Quran has been sent to you. It is easy for you to understand. So why aren't we reading? You read in the language you understand the best. And for more details, refer to my video cassette, Al-Quran should be with understanding. Hope that answers the question.